Well, students, I thought it'd be fun for us to do some name designs. Everyone's name is unique to who they are, and it's part of your identity. So I think it would be a good opportunity for us to do a name design, as well as having an opportunity to probably do some color and some paint on them as well. So the first thing that I like to do to make sure that I don't run out of space, because it's always a bummer if you do a really nice job making some of your letters and then you realize, oh, there's not enough room. So for me, I'm gonna do mine as Mr. Jackson. So on the bottom here, I'm just gonna make a space for how much room I would need for each letter. So I know Mr. Jackson has a lot of letters, so that would be my M. This is gonna be my space for my R. Then I'm gonna have my J, A, C, K, S, O, N. And I want to leave extra space. It'll be better to have a little extra space on the end than to not have enough space. So if you make a mistake and you're like, oh, I don't have enough room for all my letters, then just erase it and mark it again. So now that I can see where each letter needs to be, so I don't run out of room, I'm going to start off, and I'm gonna do block letters because I would like you to be able to do some patterning and some painting inside each letter. So for the first part, I am just gonna make this letter, I'm always gonna do it really lightly, and I'm gonna make the top of the letter almost go to the top of the page. And then I'm gonna do just this little V shape for my M, and I'm not gonna complete the whole letter yet. One of the reasons for that is so that if I run out of space, then I know that before I put a whole bunch of effort into each letter. So now I'm gonna make my R, and I'm gonna make it go up as high as the other one, so they're all gonna use all the paper. And then I'm gonna have my R kind of come around and down. Then I'm gonna do my J, and all my letters are gonna end up being pretty close together. So I would like you to try to have it go from the top all the way to the bottom. Then my A is gonna get squeezed in right close to that. Then my C, you can see that they're all lining up on the top. I'm drawing them all really lightly, and this is gonna be my K. And then we'll do my S over here. And my S is gonna be a little bit different because I am gonna have this part come up. You can see it doesn't make it all the way to the bottom, because when I make this into a block letter, the bottom of it is gonna come down there. And then I'm gonna do my O and my N. So each letter that I did line up under each space that I made. Now that I know that it's gonna fit, now I'm gonna turn them into block letters. So here, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna change the shape of that just a little bit, so that's nice that it's light. So I'm gonna erase that line. And then next to this line, I'm gonna do another line, and then I'm gonna make that into kind of a V shape, but I could make it more round, because you could do block letters or bubble letters, and then that's gonna come up, and that's gonna be my first block. Then my R, that's the line that I already had, so I'm gonna put a line next to that, and then next to that, this connects to this one. You can see there's an open space there, so that's gonna be good. So then I can just put the shape for that R inside there. That's gonna give me, I could even move this over just a little bit, so I have more room for patterning. Okay. Then for my J, I could put a little period right here too. Then my J is gonna go here. So it's got two sides to it. It's gonna come up to the top. Then my A is gonna be inside here. And then I'm gonna have a little tiny triangle shape inside that. Then my C is here, so I've got to go around that to have a second line. It's gonna come down and it's gonna meet this. Then my K is here. So every line becomes 2 lines. That's what makes it a block letter. Then we'll get my S, and I said this one was a little bit funny because the line is gonna come like this. So that's why I had it come up a little higher, because this line comes down to the bottom, which ends up making it the same height as the other one. And then this one is gonna be my O, and I just need a smaller O on the inside. And then this is my N. So I just put a line next to that. So now that I have all my letters done, you can see it's filling up the whole paper. If you get that far, then you can ask me for a marker and we'll outline it. A couple things that you can do to make them look a little more 3D. I'm going to show you with this M. And you can do it with the marker. It's kind of a cool effect to have a thicker line on one side of the letter, and it'll make it look more 3D. So here, if I want this letter to look more 3D, I can make this side wider. Then I would do that also on this side. So the second line, so 1, 2, that's the line, 1, 2, this is the second line, so that's my thick line. Just if you do that, make sure you kind of smooth it out. Same thing, this is one side of the V, that's the second side, so if it's the second side, that becomes the darker side. This is 1, 2, so this is the side that would get darker here. And you can always make the tops of your letters be a thicker line, and it'll make it more like a block letter. Then when I'm done with that one, then I would move on to my next letter, and I would make sure that these letters do not get filled in, because I'll show you the next part of what you can do. And if you, I already said this, but if you do want to make them more of a bubble letter, then you would just make the lines not quite as sharp and you'd make them a little more curved. I'll show you an example of that in a minute. So here I do the same thing. So I'm always doing the second line, or the right side of the letter would be the side that gets the thicker line. So that would be this side here, and I am covering up my dot just a little bit. I'll redraw that in a moment. And then that would be this part of the curve. And be this inside part here. Okay. And I'll just make this dot here instead. Okay. So I'm gonna pull this one over. This one I've already outlined. And if you get it all outlined, I think that'll probably take us most of the time that we have today, but this is mainly for kids who have a shorter name. If you do have it all finished up, please do a little bit of erasing, and then I would like us, so where I marked all the letters on the bottom, I'm gonna erase it also. Then I'm gonna start putting different patterning and design in them. Keep in mind that we are going to do some painting on these. So here, we'll just pretend I erased the rest. With this, I am gonna think about, well, what could I use maybe on the color wheel? And I might make a pattern of big dot, little dot on this one. And I'm gonna use the color wheel, blue is next to purple, so that could work well. So I'm gonna make a little dot, and then I'm gonna make a big dot. And I'm gonna make a little dot, and I'm gonna make a big dot, a little dot, and this is big, so this one's gonna be little, and this one's gonna be bigger. This one's gonna be kind of half circle because it's going off the side, little, big. And then I could do, this one's big, so this one's gonna be little and big. And then little, we'll go big. So like I was saying with the color wheel, for some mixing purposes, blue is next to green, blue is also next to purple. So that would be a good way to do some outlining, so then I can have a bluish purple and a good mix. I am gonna leave these spaces around it white, so then I can paint those. One way to make sure that this doesn't get covered up with paint when we paint them is to press the color on pretty hard, okay? Now, I will have the line poster up on the board too, so you can use different lines and different ideas for them. So if I do dots here, I'm not gonna do that again. So if I do dots there, maybe on this one, I'm gonna do straight line. And for this, if I do some straight line, I wanna give them enough room so that I can have areas to paint. And then if I do straight line, I think I do want to cross this a little bit. And I'm thinking with orange, orange is next to red and orange is next to yellow. So I could use that in my design and say, well, let's make this one red and orange, and we'll put yellow next to it, leaving those white spaces for paint. You can see how I'm holding the crayon down low so I can press it on well. And then each line, instead of one color, it becomes two, so it gets a good mix, okay? Then I would move on to my next letter. This one's a smaller design, but it's something you've seen before. It's more of a bubble letter design. So here, instead of these lines being so sharp, I just made the lines a little bit more curved. And then each letter has a different design in it. Like this one's diagonal line, this one's curvy line, this is dotted line, this one is a checkerboard line, this is a looping line, this one's a broken line. Some lines are vertical, some are horizontal, some are diagonal. So they're all different with the design. So most of us, it'll take us the whole time to draw it and outline it, and then we'll add color and crayon to do some design, and then we'll paint it too. So please make sure you're leaving those white spaces there for paint. If you color every letter, then you won't be able to do any painting on it. So let's have fun making these designs.